Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode 52 of the Before I Go podcast. Episode 52. 52 weeks of episodes. Yes, it has been a year, and yet it absolutely does not feel like a year. I went back and listened to episode 1, and I'm happy to say that I have held true to my original intent, which was to simply share my thoughts. Not because you necessarily need to know what I'm thinking, but more because I realize that if I've learned any lessons in life, I don't believe that those lessons are only for me. I believe that if something impacts me, it may impact someone else, and it's my responsibility to share it. It's like if I were to come up with a great vegetarian recipe, it would be selfish to keep it to myself because I know how much I struggled with what to eat when I first started my vegetarian journey. So if I can make someone else's journey a little easier, then I want to do that. That's how I feel about this podcast. I would normally wait until the end of December to do a year in review, but 52 episodes feels more appropriate to me. This time last year, November 2020, seems so far away, probably because I was in such a different headspace. I, like many others, was still trying to figure out the pandemic. I was planning to host a makeshift Thanksgiving for a few of my family members because we had decided not to get together in person, but my kids and my significant other at the time did come to my house. I prepared all the usual stuff, even though I wouldn't eat any of it, as I was 3 months into being a vegetarian. Things have changed so much since then, and I cannot overemphasize the fact that 1 year can net huge changes in one's life. Real, significant changes. If you are thinking about making a change, doing something different, but are concerned with how much time it will take, stop worrying. The time will pass, and before you know it, a year has gone by, and you will have made more progress than you ever thought possible. Conversely, if you don't do anything, a year will go by, and you'll still be at square one. Take my advice and take the plunge. This podcast does not reach many people. I'm aware that I have a very small audience, and I'm okay with that because I started out with the intent of doing this for me and maybe have something for my kids to listen to after I'm gone. And as long as I do this for me, then it remains enjoyable. Once I start only thinking about you, I'll start to hate it. Doing this podcast over the past year has forced me to be more thoughtful and more introspective. It has forced me to slow down and think about things on a deeper level. I have re-examined my feelings about failure and success, my feelings about my relationships, romantic and otherwise. I've looked at the defining moments in my life. I've learned to give myself and others more grace. I've learned to slow down and appreciate the benefits of adopting a meditation practice. I got control of my eating and lost more than 15 pounds. I ended a relationship that was going absolutely nowhere. I acknowledged my dependence on alcohol and stopped drinking, and I'm learning to be more empathetic. You may be thinking, you did all that because of a podcast? Yes and no. Over the past year, I just felt the need to look deeper, to not stop at the surface level. I've done more reading in the last year than I've done in a while. Some of the titles are The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, The Sober Diaries by Claire Pooley, Single on Purpose by John Kim, and Professional Troublemaker by Lovey Ajay. There were also several novels on the list, not to mention that I've also been reading my Bible more. All this searching and reading has led me to some remarkable realizations that brought me back to my need to share. My vehicle is this podcast. Several years ago, the vehicle was blogging, but who wants to sit down and read a blog when you can push a button and listen to a podcast while you're walking or working out or cleaning the house or taking a shower? all the things that I've read and observed and thought about turns into about 10 minutes a week for you, but it is so much more than that for me. My life looks entirely different than it did a year ago. My physical appearance is different. My home looks different. My social media feeds look different, as I do not post as much or in the same places as I once did. Plus, I don't follow the same people that I used to. I'm much clearer on what is important and what isn't. I'm much clearer on how I prioritize my values. I'm more intentional about the information that I consume, and I'm more aware of how certain things affect me, either positively or negatively. A lot can happen in a year. A lot has happened in a year. I don't know how long I'll stay on this path, probably for as long as it continues to serve me in a positive way. I'm grateful for the ability to do this. I'm grateful for you if you're listening to this right now. And if this is your first episode, I encourage you to go back and check out a few others. Each episode is about 10 minutes or less. Maybe you'll get something out of it, maybe you won't, but it won't hurt to try. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for listening today and for hanging out with me over this past year. I look forward to the upcoming year and all that comes with it. Before I go, let me share this with you from Leo Tolstoy. True life is lived when tiny changes occur. When I look back over this last year and see how my life is almost completely different than it was 52 weeks ago, I know it is because of the tiny changes that I made. And I am getting closer and closer to living my true best life. I'll see you next time.